I'm calling this meeting to order. This is a Redmond City Council study session held on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, commencing at 7:00 p.m. We have all council members in attendance: Councilmember Stewart, Councilmember Anderson, Councilmember Nueva Camina, Councilmember Fields, Councilmember Salahuddin, Council Vice President Forsyth, and myself, Council President Kritzer. There are two items on the agenda. The item of the Transportation Master Plan status update is going to be pushed to another session due to some staff situations tonight. So we will be just moving on to the purchasing process improvements, and then we'll have council talk time. The first item on the agenda is the purchasing process improvements. Kelly Cochran, Finance Director, will introduce this item. Go ahead.
Great. Good evening. Happy to see you guys. It's been a while. We are here to sort of queue up or connect with you on our purchasing process improvement initiative that was funded in the budget. With me tonight, I have Haritha Nara as well as Adam O'Sullivan. Adam became our purchasing manager in December. He was promoted from a senior purchasing agent, and it's been great having him in this spot and taking the helm on what we are embarking on. We wanted to do a few things tonight. First of all, share. Can you do the slides? Okay, thank you. The purpose that we're for meeting with you tonight is to touch base really on the scope of work that we are creating in order to inform the process improvement work. We want to touch base and make sure that we have identified things that you would expect. Anything else that you're concerned about will be then incorporated into our project planning so then we can start working. I will be handing it off to Haritha. Haritha will cover a little bit about the purchasing division, as well as some significant process improvement work that they've recently done to provide you some understanding of where we are currently at and what we're looking to move forward with this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. So as Kelly said, I'm here today to provide some overview on city's purchasing team. They are our backbone of city's procurement operations. This team is very crucial in ensuring that our city purchases are made efficiently, responsibly, and in full compliance with our legal requirements. Their work helps the city run smoothly, and they ensure that city resources are allocated wisely, vendors are properly vetted, and all the procurement activities align with city's best practices and city policies. This is a very small team with 3 purchasing agents, senior purchasing agents, and I wanted to correct that Adam was our purchasing supervisor, and then he became our purchasing manager. So we have 3 senior purchasing agents and 1 supervisor who manages a very, very big workload. When I looked at this, I was personally surprised. But these include, but not limited to, they issue formal solicitations, which includes requests for proposals, invitation for bids, requests for information, and RFQs. They get informal quotes and find the right vendor that the city needs, and ensure legal compliance by making sure they validate the approvals or workflows, tracking prevailing wages for public works, and checking insurance and bonding requirements for the city. They prepare and maintain a lot of purchase orders. In 2024, about 2,080 were issued, on an average of 173 per month, with a total of 27.6 million spent. They work very closely with accounts payable team. Overall, including accounts payable and purchasing team, they processed about 933 invoices per month. They resolve any payment issues and processes payments to the vendors. They maintain the small works roster, which basically streamlines our contractor selection. They oversee surplus requests, except for fleet, but they oversee other surplus requests. They also manage city's uniform order services. They set up new vendor support. They've set up new vendors in the system, and also always strive to build a stronger relationship with our vendors to make sure we get reliable and high-quality services and price. Beyond these, I jumped a gun over here, but these are some of the statistics that we have. I have covered a few earlier, but some of them I have not covered is they processed or issued about 50 formal solicitations just in 2024. They have processed 325 purchase requests or purchase orders in D365 and a total spend of $27.7 million from POs in 2024. Beyond these daily responsibilities that they have already are working on, this team constantly strive to make improvements on purchase policies and build efficiencies. Some of them I just wanted to point out, and these are simplifying purchase order approvals to speed up our transactions. They updated bidding templates, and they made sure that they have built strong internal controls on our workflow. They also, and as part of D365, some of these business processes have improved for purchasing quite a bit, and some of them are in year-end process for PO balance rollovers have improved. Our tracking and spending analytic reports have improved in D365. And also we implemented Concur, which is basically our ProCard, which reconciles and tracks our ProCard expenditures, which has reduced quite a bit of time on our side. They also introduce electronic bidding to make sure our vendor collection becomes more efficient. And as I said, they constantly think of and committed to think of improving our policies and procedures, which not only helps internally in our department, but also other departments in the city. Those are our, some of the items, and these are not only things that they do, but these are the ones that I wanted to highlight today. So moving forward, as Kelly said, we are here to just basically looking ahead. As I said again, that this team constantly strives for improvement. We are here to propose some of the initiatives that we are looking at in 25 and 26 that we wanted to implement. And those are here. So just to give you a little bit of summary on this, and these initiatives, I wanted to say that will make our city's operations more efficient, effective, cost-effective, transparent, build stronger compliance measures, which will basically protect the city from any financial or legal risks. And these are all the items in the scope that we have planned for. Seal bidding is one of them to make sure that the process becomes more fairer and increase transparency. Update contract boilerplates, update contract templates and management systems for efficiency. We are working on enhancing our training documents and resource guidelines for departments and also our vendors. We are improving our bidding and vendor selection process to make sure that we are attracting the best suppliers out there.
There's been a request to expand it so they just see the slide, not the whole, see the whole screen. So it's like showing as this. The way it's showing is showing like your laptop, but not just the slides itself. Oh, is this the only way we can show it? Is that a little better? Okay, thank you.
Right. Where was I? We are also working on, or will work on, improve or develop our citywide spending analytics system for better reporting and decision-making. Some of them will include our DEI and environmental sustainability reports, which basically making sure that the spending aligns with our community values and what else?
I apologize, we threw you off with that. But I think now it's a little bit too zoomed in also. So if you could zoom out, because I think it's cutting off some of your slides.
Sorry,
We'll just have to, I think, leave where,
F what?
yeah, and we can, if council members want to pull up, it should be with the attached materials too, so you can pull it up on your own computer as well.
Yeah, we wanted to do it on a PowerPoint, but we had some issues before. We just don't want to take that chance or risk anymore. So sorry, we will try to make sure that this fits in the page or in the share.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Thank you. Feel free to proceed.
All right, I lost track over here. Some of the other things that we are doing is accounts payable automation, which will help improve our accounts payable process. And as I said, we are building this spend analytics system, which will help our DEI, environmental sustainability reports as well. So these are the initiatives that we thought would help not just the council, but also the city and the departments and our internally on the purchasing team side. So I would like to kind of pause over here and get your feedback on these initiatives. Kelly, do you want to add, or Adam, do you want to add anything that I may have missed?
I think the one thing that I want to mention is that a lot of these improvements align with some of our remaining technology implementations. So we have phase 2 of our D365 project, and that scope includes the implementation of a vendor portal, and so that is part of our path. And so a lot of the work will be able to be pursued through multiple different channels. We'll be able to achieve this.
Thank you.
Anything in addition that you were expecting, anything you're really concerned about that you want to make sure we pay special attention or focus on?
Any comments or questions from the council? Councilmember Fields?
So I'm glad to hear the emphasis on technology and streamlining and through technology and efficiency, and I think that's really important. What's also important is what you do with the time savings. And in my career, I've been on both sides of this, where I'm selling to the government or I'm buying on behalf of the government. And the people selling to the government have a tremendous advantage because they're maximizing dollars and value. And most often, historically, people on the government side are trying to clear their desk and get things done. That creates an uneven battle, so to speak. So what I would be interested in is three parts of this creating value from a city perspective. One is, are we buying the right things? How do we know? How do we improve our decision making? I probably quoted it before, but oftentimes we find a solution and then we shop for a problem. I don't mean the city, I mean the world in general. The other is, it's very difficult, especially if we're not relying on very strict fixed price competitive bid contracts, to find what is the right price, especially we tend to go to sole source, or we tend to go to people that we know, and that may get out of balance because we don't get that check-in to say, is that in fact the right price? And you mentioned price, and I think price is extremely important. Not to be real preachy, but when you spend money here, you can't spend it there. So we have to be really careful about our purchasing power. So I would like to see, I know there was a third one, and I talked myself out of it. Oh, yes, and that would be the monitoring or the metrics over time to say, did we in fact, are we doing the right thing with our business community over time? Is there a way to measure and say, we're getting better at this, we're getting better at this? So those are the things that I've always been interested in, and if I can see something in the scope that addresses that, that would be great.
Absolutely. And I think that what you speak to is the outcome that we're looking for. All of these things are intended to drive us to stronger internal controls, efficiency, and effectiveness. And one of the things that I am most looking forward to is sort of taking control of the city's expenditures from this angle. We do a really good job of working with the departments to control costs through the budget. That's our main mechanism. But to start to be able to utilize the data that we have and can utilize and put into analysis to help drive these decisions in the future, so I can't wait to get there. And so when you are wondering what Adam will be doing with all his spare time, it is really diving into that spend analytics, looking at what we can do better, while at the same time being very careful about the important policies that we've put in place for DEI and making sure that we're supporting small businesses, women-owned businesses, and also making sure that we're not violating any of our environmental sustainability goals as well.
Great. And
So I'm very excited for Adam.
yeah, and the vendor portal and vendor management is a big part of what you just said, so I appreciate that as well. Just to be clear, I never said there would be spare time.
Are there other questions or comments from the council? Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you. I'm not sure if it's appropriate to add into this list of possible ads or initiatives, but the idea of embedding a living wage ordinance similar to how King County ensures that its contracts are paying living wages to all of its King County contractors. I would love to see that in our initiative as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Salahuddin?
Thank you. Great to see you in person. Just for my own knowledge, are you consulting on any other cities' processes and getting information on what local jurisdictions around us are doing?
We are working really closely anytime that we are going towards an improvement. We have a really good network around us of other cities that we freely share information, and it's an important part of what we do, because not only are we looking at internal controls, but also best practices. And I love to steal great ideas from others. It saves a lot of time. And that's what we're really able to do. So much of our work definitely comes with that view. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll just jump in to say I'm really excited about the report development and wonder if maybe as we're getting this up and running at some point later this year, if we could actually look, especially at the outputs around women and minority-owned businesses, and looking at the data around where we're at, and then any things that we can do to increase our use of more diverse businesses and contractors for our city, I think would be exciting. Obviously, the data is the first step for us to be able to do that, but would love to be able to, as council, take a look at that in addition to some of the other metrics like environmental sustainability.
We are excited that the data is in, and now we are just working on getting it out.
Wonderful. I'm not seeing other questions, so why don't you proceed? I'm sure there'll be
Great.
more questions that come.
Thank you. There are a couple of policy items that we have already been working on as a part of our routine work. They are ready for a proposal, and we'd like to walk you through a couple of them tonight and get a sense of where you are. It really is to, again, address some clarity issues as well as sort of update us to best practices. So I will hand it over to Adam to walk through.
Okay. All right, so for this next slide, it's okay, thank you. All right, so for this next slide, we'll discuss the policy review of the contract amendment thresholds. So as part of this process, we are recommending changes to the contract amendment policy. And some of the drivers for this change are the current policy is unclear on how cumulative contract amendments affect the council threshold for non-public works contracts, which has caused confusion and inconsistency for when amendments go to council. The proposed revision clarifies when contract amendments need council approval and would increase internal controls and create process efficiency. The current policy states that for non-public works contracts, a contract with no renewal provisions is approved within the guidelines for the classification of the purchase type. For example, a contract amendment needs council approval when the amendment itself exceeds the council threshold. Under the proposed policy for non-public works contracts, an amendment will need council approval under the following conditions. If a contract was not initially routed to council, but the total cumulative contract amount is now greater than the contract or council threshold, or if a contract was initially routed to council and now the total cumulative amendment amount exceeds the council approval threshold when there are no renewal provisions. An exception to this, which is actually no change to the existing policy, is that if a contract was approved by council and contained renewal provisions, then there is no requirement to take the renewal agreement back to council. The next item we're proposing changes for are the contract signing authority limits. Oh, yeah.
I was just thinking maybe we should pause at that one, have the discussion, because I think the next one is also a meaty one, unless you prefer to do them both at the same
Oh,
time.
no, the
That's
next
great.
one, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought I'd just take any questions on that first one. And I will recap from my perspective on that. It seems like we're going from a less specific policy to just making sure that we're a bit more specific. We're not necessarily changing any thresholds in this proposed policy change. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're just seeking clarity around when a contract amendment would go to council for approval.
Great. Council Vice President Forsyth.
Thank you. So the last one, which you said is very, very much in line with what we're currently doing. So if there's no requirement to take a renewal, is there a time limit on how many of those can occur currently? Renewals?
So usually when we execute contracts, there usually are built-in renewals, depending on the contract type. Usually it's around 5 or 6 years, and then we'd be required to go back out to bid.
Okay. I guess I would just be interested if we shortened that window, or if we have a check-in point potentially, like if it's a 6-year, maybe we have a 3-year check-in. Because I know there are a lot of these times we see contracts that haven't been touched for 6 years, and then we're all kind of wondering, were there better options that came along? Just to kind of have a check-in at that midway point.
Absolutely. Yeah, and some of our contracts do have renewal terms that come up every year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on how it was set up. So we could absolutely do that.
Yeah, not necessary for maybe every 1 or 2 years, but those longer ones, maybe that go 6 years, have a midway point.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. This amendment to the approval process seems very reasonable to me, and I'm particularly excited about the first bullet point. I think that this is an example where council could be in the position to receive more good news. So For instance, sometimes when a contract may have been smaller originally, that's a successful partnership, and we want to expand it, and so it comes before the council, and that's just a great chance for the staff to also check in with the council and for council to hear about the good work that's been going on. So this proposal seems clarifying and reasonable. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Councilmember Fields?
I don't have any problem with these changes, but as we discuss any of this policy, I'd be interested to hear from the mayor's office, and maybe even including the mayor, what they believe the value of council reviewing any contracts are. Why do we do it? Why do you bring these contracts to council other than state law? What is the value here? And the reason I ask that question is because that sort of lends itself into what we believe the thresholds and the policies should be, as long as we're achieving that desired end.
Mayor Bernie, did you want to speak on that?
Sure. Well, I think it's important at a certain level of threshold for the council, which means also the community, to be notified of kind of where our money's going on big ticket items, so people understand where they're going and get an idea about who's getting, who out in our community or in the state or wherever the contract's going to gets the money as well. I will share that, I think when we get to the level of, money that you all need to see the contract, I think that's kind of sort of goes to your, probably the next question on this is what is the right threshold? Every jurisdiction is different. There's no set standard. King County contracts, I think they're like pretty significant before they go to the county council, and they're all done like in consent and just kind of more of a ongoing process. Same with Sound Transit, we see contract, payouts pretty significant through our consent agenda, and the level of threshold for approval is very different. So it really is more of a philosophy on how much the council wants to see versus, or has a approval process on. The one thing I would say is, looking at this one and the next one, I like where Vice President Forsyth was talking about with the exception at a certain period of time. And so one way to think about it is not necessarily, where you needed approval, great, but also notification about what's happening. And maybe there's a better process we can set up for notification about contracts, and that could alleviate some of the notification concern and, making sure that the public knows kind of where things going. But I feel it as kind of a balance. So it's more of a philosophical discussion than a hard line on what needs to come forward. I will say that I think was mentioned, a lot of contracts come through our city, and there's also the level of attention that in your time is valuable too. So how much attention do you want to put on the level of contracts in the city too? So I think that's a good discussion.
Thanks for those reflections, Mayor Bernie. I'm not seeing other hands up, so why don't you go on to the next one? And if any additional questions come up on this, we'll go back.
On this next item, I wanted to let you know, we did add a slide towards the end, and just in case there is a request for some additional information, we did put it in here, and if we use it, we'll go ahead and send that out.
All right. The next item we are proposing changes for are the contract signing authority limits. Some of the main drivers for this are the evolving economic landscape where we're facing inflationary pressure on budgets, continued rising construction costs, a new period of risk to the global supply chain, and these changes would help align with our purchasing process improvement efforts to increase internal control and reporting and auditing capabilities. It would also allow us to avoid potential delays to project schedules and season-specific work and provide clarity to the purchasing policies. The proposed change is tied to, so this threshold policy, the proposed change is tied to both the contract amendment policy and the contract signing limits. So under current policy, bidding and signing limits are based on the annual amount of the contract, with exception for public works and architectural and engineering services, where bidding and signing limits are based on the total contract amount. With our proposed policy for all purchase types, the bidding and signing limits are based on the total contract amount, regardless of the number of calendar years in the contract term. These policy revisions would help us get consistency, clarity, and simplify the way the thresholds are calculated, particularly for multi-year contracts. Here you'll see the current signing threshold along the proposed threshold. To summarize, we are seeking to increase the mayor's contract approval authority for the following purchase types. Professional services, including technology services, from $50,000 to $150,000. Instructional and artistic services from $75,000 to $150,000. Architectural and engineering from $50,000 to $150,000. And public works from $300,000 to $700,000. So I'm going to pause there for questions or see if there's any additional info that's needed.
Thank you. Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Thank you. My question was around what were some of the factors that went into how much to increase? There are some of the numbers that we see are 2 times, some that are 3 times, some that are the same amount, however, going from annually to total project. So I was just wondering, like, what were those factors that were incorporated in there?
Thank you. That's a great question. So we did reach out to other cities, nearby cities of similar size. And so a lot of these numbers are in alignment. We're also with inflation and rising construction costs, and it's 2018 was the last time that we revised the any council approval authority or any of our thresholds. So we're sort of 6-7 years of inflation, and so trying to bring those numbers into better alignment.
Clarifying question, when you said that looking at neighboring jurisdictions and bringing the numbers in alignment, understanding that each jurisdiction, we're not Bellevue, we're not Kirkland.
Sure.
So looking to right size for Redmond. So my first question is, what did we get those in alignment with?
Yeah, so for context, so City of Issaquah, I believe, is at $300,000 for all contract types. City of Arlington, I think, is $150,000 for most contract types. Bellevue is $350,000 for most contract types. City of Seattle, which I know we're not anywhere close to, but just for reference, is $789,000. Public Works is $1 million.
Okay, so it wasn't like we're going to take a look at, and it's like each one had different
Thresholds,
issues
Yes.
with the pricing. So to get to right pricing, then, that's why I was looking for what those inside of it, the things. And then to go from the sole source, I was interested to hear about, we went from 50,000 annually, we're going to stay 50,000, but total project.
So, yeah, that one, I'm sorry, I will have to get back to you on that one. For sole source?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, on page 23.
With sole source, it's really about risk. When we're sole sourcing, I really would want to make sure that council's aware and has an opportunity to review those. So that's why we didn't increase that one. Another thing that we did was consider the council process. So we looked at, the issue of us not updating our limits since 2018 and the inflation that's happened since. We looked at what neighboring jurisdictions either have done or are queuing up to do. And then we looked at what does our data show? Where can we get to a place where we've created efficiencies?
Spring break. Right after each.
How else can we also not sort of disrupt the council process. So certainly, we want to look at how your capacity has been directed towards the review of contracts as these limits have become encroached on. So this year, I think you would notice you've signed many contracts for parks and recs, and that's because we've, kind of come up onto that limit. So we want to keep things in front of council that we recognize through a part of the budget process are important to you, important to the community, really the milestone things that are happening across the organization. But no attempt to sort of dilute the work that you're doing. I think one of the things that we looked at, and we're going to go to the next slide, but we looked at the number of contracts that we have and sort of what impact would this policy have on the work that comes in front of council. Now, this is from 2022, because when we looked at 2023, there was actually less contracts to consider. So we stuck with the 2022 data, but of all of the contracts that went to council that year, it's only 14 that wouldn't have. And we've got an example. Do we have an example on the next slide of what those would look like? No. So
I can speak to some of the examples of contract types.
it was, it was things like the training for D365 that we did for the implementation project. So this would not significantly reduce the number of contracts that council is reviewing, but I think it would help to get your attention focused on the things that are really critical to the community.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Just a thought on this request in general. When we raise the threshold, will there be an opportunity to talk more clearly about the type of money that's being used to fund the project? My concern would be if it was brought to council and if it was one funding source versus multiple funding sources, how would that look regarding the threshold of approval? So if we have to accept funds and it's not necessarily above the threshold, but it's smaller, how does that add up to the expenditure that we're expecting? I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can understand, a total amount of $700,000, which may have more than one funding source, but those funding sources may have been approved for more funds toward that project in general. And it would be good to have a conversation about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's an important note and something we could consider with this. And another note is with the thresholds, stuff that wouldn't be coming back to council for the contract approval, it's already part of the two-part council approval process. The funding would have already been approved. So this would just be for the actual contract.
Sure. Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. I suppose my comments are relatedly regarding the council's fiduciary duties. And I know that the staff have been interested in making the changes before us for a while, so I admire the complete proposal coming forward for our consideration. I do wish that we were seeing this a year from now, and maybe if it's something that we choose not to take today, it could come back to us, and here's why. I actually believe that these contract reviews that we are doing at the current thresholds are a tool for us to conduct our fiduciary duties. We've had a lot of change and disruption in the last few years, and two of the things that have been really important for us to get back on the schedule at a regular cadence are our quarterly CIP reviews and our quarterly financial staff reports. So I would like to get another year, a full year of both of those financial reports back in front of the council on a regular basis before I would feel comfortable ceding a bit more of our authority with these revised thresholds. So if this is something that the council doesn't take on right now, I would be open to seeing them again. It doesn't mean never. I would be open to seeing them again in the future. I just don't believe that I'm comfortable with the proposal right now. Thank you.
Councilmember Fields.
Yeah, I think Councilmember Stewart brings up a pretty excellent point. I have a question. Why? So when we update our process, when we update our methods, a big part of that, hopefully, will be oversight for everyone, and that we have visibility, and the public has visibility. So, and I believe that's what Mayor Bernie was describing a bit when I asked the question, you know, why do we do that? And part of it was so that we have this chance to look at things. I have to believe that somewhere in this new process, there will be more of that. And it seems like, so I didn't ask the question, did I? Sorry. The question is, why not, to Councilmember Stewart's point, why not do the first thing first, which is update your process, and then decide on what the right thresholds and policies are?
To me, it's about timing. These, again, have not been updated since 2018. And it is impacting city operations. One of the things that we looked at in studying this was, you know, how much does it cost us internally to get an item through the council process? And we followed a Public Works process, kind of followed Public Works staff through internal services, getting to the committee of the whole, getting then on the consent agenda. Without including council's review time, we're at like $3,500 for each item. And, you know, that's Public Works, and that is one of our most robust processes, but these processes exist everywhere. It takes, you know, work to get these through. So it's really about efficiency, making sure that we are as effective as we can be, and absolutely, you know, every time we crack something open, I put everything back on the table. It's a time to, you know, either fall fast and, you know, or fail fast and fall forward and keep going, or to, yeah, no, wrong way, redirect. I believe that this will come up again. One of the things that I really want to make sure that we are taking a thoughtful look at is contract management overall within the city. And we have software queued up for that in a future biennium, knowing that we need technology to help support us there. And I would imagine that in that implementation, that would be our opportunity to really make sure, as we are putting together our boilerplates and really looking at implementing technology, we would want to look at that again. Right now, it's just really the inefficiency it's causing internally because we haven't had an update in quite a while.
Quick follow-up.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Fields.
Thank you. So I understand, and and as over the 7 and some odd years of reviewing contracts during council meetings, the little bits and pieces that I extract out of it, I'm sure there might be a better way for me to extract that transparency, or for all of us to extract that transparency. I have to believe that there is. Most of the time I look at a contract and I say, wow, that seems big. And I'll say, wow, that seems big. And they answer the question and I'm like, okay, am I any better off? I don't know. So if I am not opposed to not having the number of contracts come to council if in fact we get our fiduciary responsibilities met through transparency and oversight. Some methodology to say, you know, here are the contracts that we've done this year. I mean, we do that to a large extent, but, you know, maybe we can actually improve that process. So I understand, Director, what you're saying about your staff time and also council time. And do we get the value, and does the public get the value out of that? Or are there better methods and better alternatives? So I'm open to that.
Are there other thoughts on that? Ideas?
I'll jump in with a thought, is that I think that's a really good point if we wanted to, you know, if and when we do advance on a proposal related to this, would be if there was a way to be able to share about contracts that are below the threshold, maybe it's in a bucketed group with council in terms of updates so that we know what's upcoming for approval. Maybe we don't have to run it through the process so it wouldn't slow down, but if you could bring them all together, that's an interesting idea. I'd love to see a proposal like that we could look at, especially for some of the categories where it's, we're doubling the threshold or more. So the other thing is that in our materials, we didn't have the next slide that you showed, so would love to be able to get those numbers. And I'm wondering if that could be cross-referenced with the number you mentioned about the cost, because it'd be great to know, for example, for this last year, what would be the estimated savings for each of these categories in efficiencies? So that way we could assess, because I think we might end up wanting to assess these categories differently. Like, for example, I would say my biggest concern is the jump in Public Works. I understand that Public Works does bigger projects, but that's a pretty big increase, and it feels, but it's also not, having only looked at those numbers for a moment of, across those different ones, getting a sense of how many projects that would impact, what examples of the types of projects we wouldn't have seen, I think would be helpful before for me to make that decision. But I do like the idea, if we were to move forward with this, of finding another way for us to still learn about those projects. Council Vice President Forsyth.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I like where this conversation is going. I think we're onto something really, really good here, because I too look at this in Public Works. I'm like, ooh, that feels like it maybe should be 500,000. Like, that just seems like a big jump. And with the professional services one, that also feels like a really big jump to me. I would love some clarity around, so like the contracts that we approve into investigations, like we had that HR one recently. What bucket does that fall under in this?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That was professional services. Yeah, that one just feels like too big of a leap for my comfort, knowing what types of things generally fall into that bucket. So for me, the Public Works and the professional services are just too inflated for my comfort. The other ones seem about right. Like, I understand the logic there, especially the instructional and artistic services, like we saw with all those parks contracts. That was a lot of contracts that came through. I think it was like 14 or something all at one time, and that feels more accurate given everything. But I like the direction the conversation is headed with, kind of finding a sweet spot.
Are you, is there comfort with moving from some of these from annually to total project, or is there concern there?
Thoughts from the council? Councilmember Fields? I think I saw you first.
Wait, I think I've been on the record on this one for years. I think that we should see the project.
Councilmember Nueva Camina?
I'm not clear what our average for a total project runs. Because some projects, we see them and it's a very quick turnaround. Others are lasting a duration. So that's one of the unknowns, and kind of going to the question that I had posed earlier about how did we get to the numbers? And honestly, I heard what you said, and I'm still not clear. How did we get to the numbers? Because I'm seeing, over twice as much, going from 300 to 700, staying the same on sole source, doubling on instructional and artistic services, tripling on professional services. And it looks like the numbers on the right for the proposed threshold, like that became the target, but not understanding how are we justifying going from one to the other. And again, what I understand the difference of annually, 12-month calendar year, total project. Cool, is that 90 days? Is that 18 months? What's our average?
It's not really a time frame, it's a dollar amount. So, if you've, let's say for a rate study, for example, I might have a contract for $100,000. And, well, I need to make it littler for this example to make any sense. So, if I am doing a rate study, and it is, $25,000 for 1 year, but the second year goes up to 50. Right now, or under this policy, if it's annual, I would not be sending that to council for the first year of total project. I would. I always send everything total project through. But it kind of prevents us from either kind of missing the council because we've divided the contract, or we've started with a smaller contract and added supplemental agreements to it. So, we want to make sure that we're getting council, what you should be seeing. But if we're not comfortable there, we can hold, and we can certainly tee up the data that we use to derive. Again, it is, comparisons. It is what we're seeing in terms of what we're paying out to the types of vendors that we have, and where do we hit that sweet spot to where council is still informed, but we are not administratively burdening ourselves across the organization. So it's just trying to hit that sweet spot.
Mayor Bernie?
I didn't know if Vice President Forsyth had a follow-up to that, or, okay. I would share that from a consistency for staff and for everyone, I would hope that we go to total project. I think that I think it will be a better process for everybody. I think you'll see more contracts depending on how you raise the threshold, but I do think that that is a better place for the city to be in to do that. So I kind of we can take it separate from the actual dollar amount, but I would encourage us to adopt that, and I think it'll make the finance team, it'll be easier for them to track as well. So that's one thing. Two, professional services, I don't know how they calculated the dollar amount either, but because it says include technology, I would be curious, and I guess I could ask this before, but I didn't. I would be curious to see if some of those technology professional services contracts are the thing that are bumping us up to 150. And so there's a way we could split it up a little more to find the right space for professional service, excluding technology, and then professional service for technology. And we can probably come up with some, share with you kind of where we have been with those technology contracts. So thinking of that. The last thing I'll say on all this, and I hear what all of you are saying, I really appreciate the thoughtfulness, is that I think us coming up with a reporting structure on our contracts and where the dollar numbers fall, no matter if we raise the threshold or not, or keep it the same, whatever we do, I think that reporting is also really important, and it'll be good for us to be doing to just to make sure we're sharing with you exactly what we should be sharing. So I think our new systems will allow us to do that much more easily. They're nodding, so I'm not speaking out of turn.
Thank you. And I saw some nodding over here as Mayor Bernie was bringing up the idea of splitting up maybe technology professional services from other types of professional services. So it sounds like something that, if you wanted to come back, would be of interest. Councilmember Salahuddin.
Thank you. I was actually hoping to keep technology services at 50,000 to take a look at all of technology is changing so rapidly, and that in itself is, to me, a reason why council should take a look at it and how we're assessing what's the best opportunity moving forward. All the other ones, again, to the points that have been raised, not sure how we got to these numbers. I also stepped in late, so I apologize. But the overall, annual versus total project, I want to echo Councilmember Fields, and total project makes sense to me, and would love to move forward on that piece.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Is there support to move forward with that total project? Are we split, or?
Are there any concerns with moving forward on the total project approach? All right, I'm seeing thumbs up. No concerns on that. I think it's more for us to work out on the numbers going forward. I will also ask and not seeing any other questions. Are there more questions? Councilmember Anderson?
I think the total project limit or threshold would be helpful if we had a years associated with it. I think Councilmember Nueva Camina mentioned that earlier about trying to understand the timeline for that. So that would be helpful. So is it $700,000 over 6 years, or 1 year. It's a big difference.
It will vary.
Right, but the total project limit may not be relevant if we spent money 6 years ago and we need to spend another $700,000 for whatever reason that would be 6 years in the future, so.
Just to clarify, is the question whether, in that example, if say we spent the money on a project and then it got delayed or something happened and 6 years later we're spending more money on it, would that count towards the total project in that example?
I don't think the contract wouldn't be valid that long.
Right,
It
and this, I guess the scope change would be a different, a reason to reconsider the threshold, so I think that language would be helpful to understand in this conversation.
Great, thank you. Any other feedback or questions on this? I wanted to jump back to the previous policy proposal now that we've gone through both. Councilmember Fields.
Sorry. So it's just one thing that I wanted to point out. Councilmember Salahuddin sort of brought this to my mind. When we see a contract, that's not the first time we're seeing a direction or a policy or a trajectory that we've all agreed on. They're pieces of that. So with respect to technology, or if we ever actually become a smart city entity or something like that, those are policies and those are programs. So it's not like, hopefully, we're not seeing the threads for the first time we see a contract.
Right.
I just wanted to point that out.
Definitely.
I will actually jump in to say, I think that's a great point, and, hopefully, most of the things that we're doing contracts on, we budgeted for, and so then we'll see the contract as it comes through. But actually, to the point around some of these lower thresholds, some of these might fit within a budget and be some sort of innovative new thing that fits within a departmental budget that we wouldn't have kind of got into those micro levels in our budgeting process on. So I think there is a value to some of the visibility that we get of some of these smaller contracts, just because that's the way that we actually do see it, because it often doesn't come up in our, CIP or TIP discussions, because they're kind of smaller things that happen. So, so jumping back to this, I just wanted to get the staff some direction. Were there any concerns with this particular proposed policy? I saw thumbs up. All right, so it sounds like overall there's support for getting this updated policy, but we do need to come back and revisit on the second proposed policy changes. Do you want to talk us through next steps, unless there are any other questions from the council?
Those are exactly our next steps. So we will queue up some policy changes for the things that we had some comfort with tonight. We will continue the development of our project plan, and when we have a sense of when we're really going to be hitting some milestones, we'll come back and share that with council and sort of figure out where do we interject this work. So then, again, you feel comfortable that it's in alignment with where we're going. And then we can take care of some of those. I think thinking outside of the box here and finding solutions that will address our needs, we'll be able to find, I think, a really workable solution. So looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work on this. This is, finding these efficiencies, and also the work that you presented at the beginning of this, since we got into these policy proposals, but all that work going through our purchasing process to be able to make our city process run well, and to also do our responsibilities to the taxpayers to use their dollars wisely. I think really just commend you all and everyone in the department for that work, as well as the cross-departmental effort. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. Thank you so much. We'll move on to the second item on our agenda. The second item on our agenda is council talk time. Are there any items for discussion? I don't usually have a laundry list of things. I'm going to be honest, I am planning to send out the notes from our council retreat, and I have not done so, so I'm going to own that with you all and say that I will do so very soon. And we'll probably have some action items on there at our next council study session. Yeah, we'll open it up for any items for council talk time. Councilmember Anderson.
April is Sexual Violence Awareness Month, and if if it pleases the council and if the mayor is willing, I would be willing, would appreciate being able to read the proclamation for KSARC or add a statement at the end.
Mayor Bernie, I know that I had checked in after we got that request from KSARC, Casey Cirque. And so if you could share a little bit about the plan of when that will show up.
I will have to get back to you. I actually don't know off the top of my head when we're doing the proclamation. So I know
Great.
we're doing one. That's all I know.
All right, I'll leave it to you to follow up there. Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. And yes, I think it's the first week that we had it confirmed, but I'll double check and I can let you know as well. But hopefully the two of you can follow up. Other items? All right, well, per our new tradition, are there any items ombuds related? I am actually the ombuds this month, so I'll bring up one actually, I'll let everyone else raise your hand first. Otherwise, I had one that I did want to just let everyone know in terms of the follow-up on. Councilmember Fields.
So I think I've seen some emails on the teen center, and I think I saw some young people out on our steps with some pretty strong opinions. So I think that's something that we need to make sure that we understand. Let's see, how do I want to say this? I'm not speaking for myself here necessarily. I'm speaking for what people have told me. And it's, again, back to that suspicion thing. What is your real plan with that property? And I think that we have to look at the entire thing. We understand that the building is not safe to be in. We understand that we're relocating programs. But there is a suspicion out there that we are hiding something. And I think we need to be fully transparent and clear on what our plans are. The sooner the better. That's all I have to say about it.
Great, thank you. And actually, that was the issue I wanted to bring up as well. And but I appreciate you raising it. And to note that I've just been working with the city staff to make sure that I get the most accurate information to send out in response to the petition. There hasn't been a petition sent to us that has several thousand signatures on it. And I do want to make sure that we get back to all of those folks with the accurate information as well as the information about our upcoming study session that we're going to have on that topic with the Parks Director and the mayor to be able to talk about that facility, the future, the programming, and kind of all the pieces related to that. And Council Vice President Forsyth and I did go out just before this meeting as we had some of our teens in front of City Hall just to be able to speak with them and encourage them to come talk to our council if we want to look into also doing some sort of listening session as we move forward in this process. I'd be really happy to work with the mayor to set that up. So that way, maybe it's, I think I mentioned this the other week, maybe we do some sort of special council conversation or town hall with our teens to really make sure that they can be heard as part of this process.
And if I can, Council President, I heard your list. I just want to emphasize and property. You said facility, programs, and property. That has to become part of our discussion.
Great. Mayor Bernie?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, there was an article in the Seattle Times today, and it wasn't as clear as I would have hoped they would be, but that's all right. So if people are listening, we accept emails, you can send us a written letter or to Mayor Council with your comments. We also, next week, we'll have a business meeting, and we have items from the audience, and people can come and share their thoughts. And then there will be a study session, the first of many, on April 22nd, where we will share information. And just to be very clear, and there's a FAQ on our website, so I hope that those that have interest will go and read through that to get answers to many of their questions as well. But to be clear, there are two conversations. One is teen programming, and as for the most part, we're moving all of the teen programming. It will occur somewhere in the city, so we're not getting rid of any of the teen programming, just to be very clear on that. And with teen programming, we're also doing some work to decide, like, what kind of teen programming do teens actually want for now and into the future? So that, all that work is going on. And then a separate conversation is location and facility. So those are two different discussions. So I hope that as the community thinks about this and shares with us their information, that they can be clear with us about the facility versus the programming, because I do want to keep those two things separate. And to Council President's comment, we are closing the facility due to safety. So as we've shared many times, our utmost priority is the safety of our community. So I do very much appreciate the sadness and concern and the really heartfelt feelings and experiences at the old firehouse, and many of us have those as well. But we really need to ensure that our community is safe and also have an ability to continue the programming for the teens. So all of that to say, we do really appreciate all the feedback and the comments from the community.
Thank you, Mayor Bernie. And yeah, I'll note that I did share with the teens who came to City Hall today just how heartbroken I am over the situation, and that we do want to just make sure that we can make the decisions that will create a safe environment for our teens and also make sure they continue to have all this great programming. So appreciate that. Councilmember Salahuddin.
Thank you. Just to jump on what Councilmember Fields was talking about with regards to the property, I think assessing the entirety of the situation is critical when thinking about even things like transportation. Some of the students were talking about the inaccessibility of getting to the Marymore Community Center, and I think when we're figuring out the whole scope of how we can get the teens there when they were used to a transportation plan to the Firehouse Teen Center, I think holistically thinking about all of those access resources as well will be important.
Great. Thank you so much. Any other comments? All right, well, I'll just say as a recap, April 22nd is going to be our study session, and for the listening public, you can join us. I think it's April 1st is the next business meeting that we have, so come join us at public comment at our business meeting at 7 o'clock next week. If you want to share some thoughts with us, or write to us at mayorcouncil@redmond.gov. Council Vice President Forsyth.
Just before we close for the night, I want to recognize that Monday, March 31st is International Transgender Day of Visibility. I just want to make sure that our community feels welcome and seen, and make sure we're recognizing those folks in our community that give us so much.
Thank you. And I will just ask, I know that you had brought up wanting to do a resolution on that. Can you just update, and just so we know what might be ahead?
Yes, I am planning to update our welcoming resolution around this topic. I just have not had the opportunity yet to get into that work. I'm hoping to do that in the coming weeks, very soon. So please stay tuned. I know I have one co-sponsor. If anyone else is interested in jumping on that, please reach out.
Great. Councilmember Salahuddin.
Thank you. And on a similar note, Sunday is actually Eid, end of Ramadan, for all of our Muslim community members. And one thing that I do want to call out on the city's website, so thank you to whoever added this, is the immigration resources at the top of our city website for the listening public. You can get information on immigration resources across our community and across the nation. So thank you.
Wonderful. And how's that bill going?
It is moving well.
Great. Well, Eid Mubarak to all of our Muslim community members. And on that note, if there's no other items for good of the order, this meeting is adjourned.